Welcome, everybody, to Black and Gold Weekly, a weekly Boston Bruins show here on YouTube, brought to you in partnership with Black and Gold Productions. I am your host, John. We are on episode 47, and this is serving as last week and this week's show as we head into the Christmas break. It's probably going to be a little shorter one this week, as the Bruins are not currently playing, so there's not as much going on, but we're certainly going to be talking about the COVID outbreak, the COVID issue, and why the Bruins are not playing. Also look back at the last few games that they did play before being shut down, and then look at what's ahead for the Bruins when they return after the Christmas break, assuming that they are able to get guys off the list and be back for the 27th. We'll look that upcoming week of games between the end of the Christmas break and the New Year. So before we get going, I want to give a big thank you to Mark Allred and everyone at Black and Gold Productions for their support. This show would not be happening without them. I also want to turn your attention down to the description of the video where there are 3 links. First one for Boston Bruins apparel, second one for NHL apparel from any team, and the third one for NCAA college apparel. If you were in the market for any of those things, it would be greatly appreciated if you could check those out. A wide variety of products, all team branded, a lot of really cool stuff, and great way to spend some Christmas money if you want to check out any of the cool stuff available there. All the links are right there in the description. Just click over and you can see what they've got to offer, and it would certainly be greatly appreciated. But let's get into it here. Let's get started with the Bruins talk. And obviously they're not playing right now, but Boston has played a few games since our last show. They had a big win in Calgary, then they came back home, and at that point COVID had taken over, and this team really struggled in their last 2 games before eventually being shut down and having the rest of these games before Christmas postponed. So let's take a look at it here. We'll go through the last few games here for Boston that they actually did play, and we'll start with Calgary. Calgary was finishing up their Western Canadian road trip. Calgary was also a team that is heavily impacted by COVID. And this was honestly probably where a lot of the few Bruins got impacted with it in this game against the Flames. But this was closing out their road trip, and this was a big win, a second impressive win in a row for the Bruins after beating Edmonton a couple nights before. They go into Calgary, and they're able to get the 4-2 victory in this one. They were outshot pretty heavily by the Flames, 42-27. Slightly beaten in the faceoff dot. They were 0 for 2 on the power play. Calgary was 1 for 5. They did out-hit the Flames, though, 26-22. Also had a lot more shot blocks with 21 to only 7 for the Flames. And were better at not turning the puck over. 9 giveaways for the Bruins, 12 for the Flames. So we'll go into the game here. Connor Clifton actually opened the scoring for the Bruins late in the first period with his first goal of the season. And that was the only goal of the first period. He put them up 1-0. And in the second period, the Bruins really took control. Brad Marchand scores his 11th of the year about almost 6 minutes into the second, and puts the Bruins up by a couple of goals. Charlie McAvoy scores not long after, giving the Bruins a 3-0 lead. Matthew Tkachuk answered, though, for Calgary on the power play late in the second. He made that a 3-1 game. That is how the second period would end. Going into the third, Bruins had a 2-goal lead. All they had to do was, hang on and, make sure that they played good quality hockey in the third to hold on for the win. Well, they got a goal early from Curtis Lazar to put them up 4-1 and regain the 3-goal lead. Lazar's second of the year. Nice to see some guys, that haven't been scoring a ton get on the score sheet in this game for the Bruins. Sean Monahan was able to answer and score one late for the Flames, but it was just way too little, way too late. And it ended up being a 4-2 game. That would be the final score as the final minutes ticked off the clock. And again, Clifton scoring, Lazar scoring. Getting those guys on the score sheet was definitely nice to see. Trent Frederick had a 2-assist game. His first multi-point game of his NHL career. Grizzlick picked up an assist. Bleed picked up an assist. So, obviously, Marchand was involved. He scored. McAvoy scored. Marchand had a goal and an assist. Bergeron had a couple of assists. It was good. You had the big scorers involved in scoring, but you also had Clifton and Frederick and Bleed and Lazar and these other guys who are more secondary scorers actually having an impact on this game and getting involved offensively. So that was really, really good to see. And again, the Bruins need more of that. They need more of these secondary guys getting involved. Also, Linus Omar was absolutely outstanding in this game. He made 40 saves on 42 shots. Just a phenomenal performance by Omar in goal. And it was back-to-back great performances from him. He played awesome in Edmonton the game before. Then he goes into Calgary and plays absolutely awesome there as well. So very, very good for Omar. So that closed out the road trip for the Bruins. Then they went back home for Tuesday night game against Vegas. However, by the time that we got to the 14th, Boston already had multiple players, significant players, missing from the lineup. And they had to kind of throw a lineup together here for this one, and it did not go well for the Bruins. They got beaten 4-1 by the Golden Knights. Just dominant first period from Vegas. And Boston really had no answer after that. Not able to get anything going offensively. If we look here, shots were 25-24 for the Golden Knights. So pretty even shot-wise. But again, the Bruins not able to, really able to score only that one goal in the third. And then Vegas, they obviously only had 25 shots, but they scored on 4 of them. They made the most of their opportunities. Bruins were dominant in the faceoff dot, 60%, but obviously that didn't really mean much. Vegas went 1 for 1 on the power play. Boston went 0 for 1 on the power play. Not a lot of penalties or special teams play at all in this game. Boston heavily out-hit Vegas 38-20. Vegas out-blocked them 14-12. And the Bruins were actually better as far as giveaways go with only 4. And Vegas having 11. But that's because Vegas had the puck a lot more. So, again, that's, at face value is a solid statistic. But when you dig a little deeper, I mean, Vegas had the puck a lot more. So, of course, they gave it away more. So, kind of makes sense there. What really matters is the scoreboard, and the scoreboard here did not go the Bruins' way, not even close. Shea Theodore opened the scoring for the Golden Knights to put them up 1-0. Just about 2 minutes later, Max Pacioretty scored for Vegas, making it a 2-0 game. And Jonathan Marchessault added another one on the power play for good measure in the first. Late in the first, putting them up 3-0 at the end of the first period. And again, when you give up late goals in the period, I mean, literally, like at the last second, that's a cardinal sin. You're not going to win games doing that. We've seen that with the Bruins this year. Bruins have actually been on both ends of it at different points, at different games this year. But if you're the team giving up goals in the final seconds or first seconds of a period, that's a cardinal sin. You are not going to win a lot of games doing that. And this was another great example of the Bruins digging themselves in a hole that they could not climb out of. In the second period, Max Pacioretty scored again to give Vegas a 4-0 lead, and I think everybody pretty much knew that the game was over at that point. Patrice Bergeron did put one home in the third period to at least get Boston on the board, and they avoided the shutout, but overall, they really had no offense going in this game, and it was not a good performance from the Bruins whatsoever. I would say this is probably one of their more disappointing games of the season. Now, they did have a lot of, guys out of the lineup. They were missing Craig Smith. They were missing Brad Marchand. They had significant guys not there, but still, there's really no excuse. Coyle was -2. Foligno was -2. Howla was -2. Forbert and McAvoy were both -2 on the back end. Like, it's just it was a rough one, and Jeremy Swayman was not good in goal either. Swayman only made 21 saves on 25 shots, .840 save percentage. That's not going to cut it. He really didn't have much for help in front of him. There's no doubt about that, and you can't single-handedly blame the goaltender. But he did not have his best game, to say the least, in this one. So this was kind of just a lousy game here for the Bruins, down a few players because of COVID, and Vegas playing better as they've gotten healthier as the year's gone along. All of a sudden, Vegas now is playing well, and they took it to the Bruins in this one. And then the last game that was actually played for the Bruins was Thursday the 16th against the New York Islanders. And by this point, Boston had even more guys out of the lineup because of COVID. Honestly, I'm a little surprised this game actually even took place. I really thought this one was going to be the one that got postponed first, but it didn't. The Bruins had to play it. And once again, with massive pieces out of the lineup, missing from the roster, Bruins have no offense, and they lose this one 3-1. Islanders, who have really been struggling this year, score 1 goal in each period, and that is more than enough. The Bruins don't score until the third period yet again, just like the game against Vegas, and it's much too little, much too late. Boston, however, did have a lot more shots on goal in this one. They outshot the Islanders 41-28. However, they were heavily beaten in the face-off dot. Only won 42% of the draws. They went 0 for 3 on the power play, which, again, that is not going to cut it. Islanders went 1 for 5 on the power play. And Boston out-hit New York 26-22. They also out-blocked them 13-11. However, they had a lot more giveaways with 17. Islanders had 12, which is also, a pretty high number. But Boston gave the puck away even more than the Islanders in this one. And Cal Clutterbuck opened the scoring for New York in the first period, putting them up 1-0. Obviously, early goals, still a lot of time left. Boston was certainly not out of it there. In the second period, Anthony Beauvillier scored his 4th of the season on the power play, gave the Islanders a 2-0 lead. Still, Bruins not able to score. We go to the third period, it's 2-0 Islanders. Cal Clutterbuck scores again to put the Islanders up 3-0. That pretty much ended the game there. Mike Riley was able to score for Boston to make it a 3-1 game with just under a minute to go left in the game. However, down by 3, it was far too little, far too late, and the Islanders held on for a 3-1 victory. And again, the Bruins only score 1 goal, not nearly good enough. And, they have the excuse of the guy, so many guys being out of the lineup, but the end of the day, the win and losses still count the same no matter who's playing, and it's still another L in the loss column in the standings, and that is really not what the Bruins need. When you look at the Eastern Conference standings, they are still outside of a playoff spot, and 14-10-2 is definitely not where I was expecting the Bruins to be at the Christmas break this year. I was expecting a better season and a better record than that, to say the least. But that's where we are right now. Coyle was -2 again in this game. Foligno -1. Hall -2. Pastrnak -2. Grzelcyk and McAvoy both minuses on the back end. It's just, they're not scoring, and the goals that they do give up, they're not able to get them back. They're not able to have the offense to be able to give up 3 goals and still win the game. So it seems like as soon as they give up a couple, they're in a hole that they really can't climb out of it at that point, at least the way that they're playing right now in these last few games. If they give up more than 2 goals, they're probably not going to win. And that's not good, because Boston, they don't exactly have the defense that's going to hold every team to 2 goals or less. Like, there are going to be games that they need to win 4-3 or 5-4 potentially. And right now, this team isn't showing any ability to do that. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't be able to all season, or that they can't. But with the current lineup in the state that it's in, they're probably not going to be scoring 4 or 5 goals. So this was another one where they just did not have enough offense. Omar played this game after Swayman got lit up by the Golden Knights. He stopped 25 out of 27 shots, had a .926 save percentage. Again, not really on the goaltending here. The third goal for the Islanders was an empty netter, so that doesn't count against Omar. But he played well actually and made the saves that he needed to make. It was just a complete lack of scoring here for the Bruins in this game, and they were not able to pick up a win there either. So they go into the postponements here with 2 straight losses, only scoring 1 goal in each game, and well, that's not what you want to see if you're a Boston Bruins fan heading into the break. But now we get to these postponements because Boston was supposed to play Montreal on the 18th and Ottawa on the 19th. Those games got postponed. They were supposed to be playing Carolina tomorrow on the 21st and Colorado on the 23rd as their last game before the Christmas break, but all 4 of those games will be postponed to a later date because of the COVID issue going on with the Boston Bruins right now. So we'll go over and look here at the COVID tracker from Sportsnet, and Boston has a pretty long list here. Brad Marchand, Craig Smith, Patrice Bergeron, Jeremy Swayman, Trent Frederick, Anton Bleed, Oscar Steen, Taylor Hall, and Curtis Lazar. That is 9 players right now in the COVID protocol as of the 20th when I'm recording this. They also have a staff member placed in the COVID protocol as well. Bruce Cassidy, as we know, was in it earlier this month and has actually since come out and been cleared. But he was, really the first to get it. And now it's gone into the locker room and hit the players. They've got 9 players and additional staff members, so 10 total on the COVID list right now for the Bruins. Obviously not as long as Calgary's list down here. Calgary's really been the worst breakout that we've had this season, as almost their entire lineup and coaching staff and 10 additional staff members all in the protocol right now for the Flames. So they're the worst breakout, but Boston, definitely a pretty big breakout. Carolina's had some issues. Colorado's had some issues. Detroit has quite a few players on right now. Florida's got a fairly sizable breakout. Nashville's got another really big one. Seattle's got a bunch of guys. Toronto's now got a bunch of guys. Vancouver, the last few days have added to their list. So it's really all over the league. I mean, you look at this list, it's all over the league, but Boston does have a pretty sizable one, and that is why they will not be playing these games heading into the break, these last 4, and hopefully they'll be returning on the 27th against the Penguins. Now, from a timeline standpoint, assuming like Boston's like a lot of the other teams where players aren't really symptomatic or are only sick for like a day or 2 and then are fine after that, there are going to be quite a few players eligible to return for the Bruins from a time standpoint. Marchand, Smith, Bergeron, Swayman, Frederick, Bleed. I mean, all of these guys from like the 16th and earlier should be able to return by the 27th, assuming that they're not still experiencing symptoms or aren't really sick. They should be able to be back by that game. So I would expect the Bruins to be able to play against Pittsburgh on the 27th, because I think a lot of these guys that are gonna be coming off the list, especially guys that were put on like the 13th and 14th, they should be coming off by the time we get to the 27th, especially if they're, only experience mild symptoms or were completely asymptomatic, like a lot of these NHL players have been. And that's kind of one of the big debates going around the league right now is, why are they even bothering with these players who aren't even actually getting sick? Why are they getting treated like they're, really, dangerously ill when they're not even really sick? And that's become a big point of contention right now amongst the players and the teams in the league and all of that. And that's something that's going to have to be worked out as time goes along. But we'll see what happens with that. But the players are starting to get a little bit aggravated with the whole COVID protocol and the way that it's keeping guys out of games when they're perfectly fit to play. It's just because of a positive test they have to be out, even though they're not even sick. So it's going to be interesting over the next few weeks how that evolves, because really just over the past week or so, players and management from teams have started speaking out on that publicly. And that's not a real debate that we've heard a lot of in the public sphere. I'm sure it's been talked about a lot, probably privately, but it hasn't been something that's really come out in the media and been out in the public. But now it really is, as players are starting to push back against these COVID protocols. So that's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. But anyway, that's why the Bruins are not playing this week. Next game should be against Pittsburgh on the 27th, and they should have at least a decent number of these guys coming off of the COVID protocol by then, I would imagine. But again, COVID's become a big issue in the NHL. Once again, it's not just the Boston Bruins. It is around the league. There are tons of teams with players. There's numerous teams shut down right now. They have so many players that they're just completely shut down from playing games right now. And the league is kind of limping into this Christmas break. It can't get here fast enough. They've since postponed any game that had cross-border travel. No Canadian teams are coming to the U.S. until after the Christmas break. No U.S. teams are going to Canada until after the Christmas break. I honestly think that makes sense, because you don't, especially right around the holidays and Christmas time, you don't want a guy to test positive in a different country from where him and his family live and then get stuck there. And they are able to get players back home. We've already seen it with a few teams where they've gotten players back after positive tests, but it's very expensive, and it's kind of a pain in the butt process to do. They have to get like special medevac flights and stuff, and like it has to be a special flight, and it's a big headache to try and get a player who's, maybe plays for a Canadian team who tests positive in the US to get them back to Canada is a real headache, and vice versa. If a player on an American team gets, tested positive up in Canada and then has a hard time getting back to the US, it's a big headache. So they're just not crossing the border for the rest of this week until we get through the Christmas break, which I think makes a lot of sense. Don't want players going through that and getting stuck away around the holidays. And there's only a few games left on the schedule with so many teams out right now, and so many games postponed because of the no border crossing. There's really not that many games left this week on the schedule, but those that do appear to be will be played, or at least the ones that they can without having future. As long as the teams don't have any other outbreaks here in the last few days, it seems like those games left are going to be played. And that's just where we're at right now. So we'll look ahead now to the upcoming Bruins schedule. Again, they are supposed to return at the end of December on the 27th to play the Pittsburgh Penguins. And for a first game back, that is not going to be an easy game. The Penguins are playing very, very well right now. One of the better teams in their last 10 games in the Eastern Conference. And they're winning a lot and finding ways to pick up a lot of points here. So I'm going to say that's going to be a tough one against the Penguins. It is at home. Hopefully we get, guys like Marchand and Bergeron and Smith and such back into the lineup, and hopefully they're able to play, by the 27th. I think they probably will be, but again, we don't know that for sure. They're still in the protocol, at least as of now. Then Boston has to go to Ottawa on the 29th. And obviously, that is, again, a cross-border game here in Ottawa. We'll see if it actually happens. We'll see if they reinstate border-crossing games after this holiday break that ends the 26th. So, as of now, though, they are planning on going to Ottawa on the 29th. And again, Ottawa is, they're not a great team in the standings, but they're not a team that you can take lightly. Ottawa's been playing really hard the last few weeks especially, and they've picked up some big wins against really good teams. They've beaten a lot of teams that they were not expected to beat. So that's definitely pretty interesting there to see, them play well against tougher opponents more so than they have against the weaker opponents. So Ottawa is not a team that the Bruins can take lightly at all. And then that closes out December. That's the end of December for the Bruins. They have the 30th and the 31st off. Their next game after Ottawa would be Buffalo on January 1st, but we'll have another episode out to talk about that. So the last game before a new episode of the show will be this Ottawa game at 7:30 on the 29th, assuming that it does end up happening. So that's pretty much where we're at right now. I mean, all these postponed games, then there's Christmas, and then coming back from Christmas, we hope everything is going to be back somewhat in order by then. They'll play the Penguins at home on the 27th, and they'll go to Ottawa on the 29th. And that is the upcoming schedule to finish out the month of December for the Boston Bruins. So that's pretty much going to be it for right now for the show, because there's really not a whole lot going on. Obviously with the team shut down and nobody, playing, we're just kind of waiting for the 27th at this point as Bruins fans, hoping that they'll at least be able to return for that game against the Penguins. But certainly wishing all the best to all of the players, all of their families, everyone around this Christmas time and this holiday season. Obviously, really stinks to see so many people on the COVID list at this time of year, especially. And we hope that everyone is happy, healthy and happy and having a good time with their families around this time of year. And it doesn't look like, that's happening for a lot of NHL players, unfortunately, as they continue to struggle with COVID and be impacted by this disease again this season. And the good news, however, is that across the league, a large majority of the cases are asymptomatic or very mild symptoms. There really aren't a lot of players or people around getting really sick. And the guys that do get sick, generally it's been only for like a day or two, and then they turn the corner quickly. So that is a good sign. Obviously, with so many people vaccinated, pretty much everyone around the NHL is vaccinated. So that, while it's proving not to really stop the spread at all, it is keeping symptoms, kind of hampered down a little bit, and people aren't getting nearly as sick because they're vaccinated, and that's been a good sign. We're seeing a lot of these people not really sick and very mildly sick if they are, and obviously that is great to see. Nobody seems to be getting real seriously ill from this, and I think that is one positive, is that at least we're not seeing guys get really ill and really sick and get to a point where it's actually dangerous. They seem to be pretty good after a day or two, and some of them aren't even feeling symptoms at all, which obviously is best case scenario. But still very, very tough this time of year to have so many players testing positive and in protocols, and the situation being what it is right now in the NHL. And we certainly wish all the players, all the staff, all the coaches, everybody the absolute best, and hope that everyone stays healthy as they can, and that everyone's able to, get through this and get over this sickness really, as quickly as possible, and come out strong and still ready to go when they're able to come off the protocol list and get back to work. So certainly wishing the best for everyone there. And that's going to bring us now to the end of episode 47. Wishing all of you guys a very happy and healthy holiday season. We got Christmas coming up this week. Merry Christmas to all of you who celebrate. Happy holidays to everybody, and hope that you all have a fantastic week this week. And have an awesome holiday with family, friends, and whoever you celebrate with. So that's going to bring us to the end. Again, big thank you to Mark Allred and the entire team at Black and Gold Productions. This show would not be happening without them. I would not be here without their support, so thank you so much. Be sure to go to www.blackandgoldhockey.com to check out all the work from the great writers, all the great podcasts that are part of the network. Everything at B&G can be found at blackandgoldhockey.com. So a great place to check out what everyone here at B&G Productions has going on right now. And big thank you to you guys all watching. Really, really appreciate it. Don't forget to check out those links down in the description if you're in the market for any sort of team-branded NHL apparel, Bruins apparel, college apparel. It's all down there. Be sure to check that out. Thank you guys so much. Have a great holiday, and I'll be talking to you guys soon. That's going to do it for episode 47. Thank you guys, and see you next time.